Hi, I'm Catherine Llewellyn, the host of the podcast. You can find out all about Truth and Transcendence on truthandtranscendence.com. And you can find out all about me on beingspace.world, where you will find my online coaching offering as well as my UK-based workshops. The Freedom of Spirit workshop for liberation and empowerment, the Pellower Radical Shift in Consciousness workshop for spiritual expansion, and transformational coaching for exploring the mind-body-spirit connection on the expansive path. You can also support the podcast by actually making a donation. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to Truth and Transcendence. You can find all our other episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. Today, I'm delighted to welcome special guest Ann Théato, who's here today to talk about many mysterious and wonderful things, but one of which is the need to express ourselves, which is a theme that came up in our prequel, which we're going to talk about. And you can find Ann Théato on anntheato.com. That's ANNTHEATO.com. So Ann is a globally recognized psychic and medium with over 37 years experience. She trained at Arthur Findlay College and the Spiritualists National Union. She holds expert certifications in mediumship and psychic education, which many of us didn't even know that even was a thing. Anne teaches at top centres, including the College of Psychic Studies, and hosts the award-winning Psychic Matters podcast, currently ranked in the top 1% globally. Founder of Class, she offers transformative spiritual workshops, passionately empowering others to unlock their psychic potential and deepen spiritual awareness. Wow. So, Anne, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, bless you, Catherine. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honour to be here.
Thank you. So when we met in the prequel, we had a lovely chat, as you were saying. And one of the things that sort of came through loud and clear is that you're somebody who really does express herself. And I was saying, well, you know, why are you so good at articulating? Why are you so good at expressing yourself? And you said, well, I just have to express myself. It's just there's this need to express myself. And I really resonated to that. And I think that's something it's very important for people to connect with these days. You know, we all have this need to express ourselves. And yet so many of us feel like we can't or we shouldn't, or how do we? So would you like to sort of kick off by telling us a bit about your kind of origin of being really aware of this need to express yourself?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I'm all for a bit of self-expression, Catherine, definitely. Well, now, let's see. I think it's part of our soul that we come here and life tries to make us quite linear, I feel. Or certainly when I was born, way back when, the need to achieve, to succeed, to go in one straight line. I was sort of on the last cusp of those people who used to work for one company all of their lives, be very loyal and dedicated, all of those things, which I believe in, and I'm not saying they're not a thing. But as I've evolved in my spiritual path and development, I've realized that I am so much more than just one thing. I am many, many different things. I feel like I wear many, many different hats. And I think that's all various expressions of my soul. And I can't not try them all out and give them a whirl. You know, the traveler within me is huge. And I've been curtailed in my ability to travel due to finance and having small children and not having a support network and things like that. But I have still travelled by reading the National Geographic. I have still travelled by speaking to the multicultural, beautiful people in my neighbourhood in London who have given me their recipes, shared their food with me, told me of their families and their culture, etc. So if you can't get to the country, you can still do things that that you can express your soul in some way. I was encouraged to be a secretary by my mother. It was a dreadful decision. I wanted to be an actor when I left school, Catherine. I was singled out by my drama teacher as being very, very good at acting, and he gave me the leaflets for the acting schools in London and things like this. But my parents didn't think that was a terribly good idea, and so then the academic route was to try to be a physiotherapist, which I also wanted to do because I wanted to help people. And there was an element of nursing about me. My mother refused to allow me to be a nurse. So then I said I'd do physical therapy, physiotherapy. And then I wasn't able to do that because I didn't have the qualifications. So then she said, go and be a secretary. So I was like, oh, gosh. So that's what I had to do. So I did that for a while, which in fact was quite useful in future years because everything I do now from an entrepreneurial point of view, we need to have that good administrator behind the scenes. So that was good. But the acting was still within me so strongly. And I eventually earned my own equity card in London by setting up my own theatre company with other people. We didn't have any music, so I wrote some. I wrote some songs. I sewed the costumes. I built the set. I did everything I needed to do to get this equity card, and all of that was great. And I was trying to knock on doors to be an actor. Then I moved into voice acting. That was really great. Then I had children, so I was expressing myself in that way as a mother. And then I'm also a writer and a script writer. So I was doing all of those things as well, trying to move that forward, writing books, etc. Most of which aren't published yet, just due to time and distractions and children. Isn't that? And my latest thing, Catherine, has been to join the London stand-up comedy circuit to express myself as a stand-up comic. So I've been really enjoying that. And I'm hoping to get out there next year on the comedy circuit to just express that aspect of my soul. In between all of that, my main job at the moment is as a psychic and a medium. And that's what I do. One-to-one readings. I'm a tutor, as you've kindly said, for the College of Psychic Studies and many other places, and I love that work. I'm so passionate about it, but yet there are other aspects of my soul that need to be expressed. The painter within as well. I try to do these paintings. I'm not very good at it. I'm not good at a lot of things, but I've learned you shouldn't try to express yourself because you want the thanks and the admiration of other people. It's nothing to do with them. You have to do it because your soul needs to do it. And don't look for any result. Keep it private. Keep it personal to you. My paintings mostly are down in the garage, down in the shed. Nobody sees them. Occasionally, I might put them on Instagram if I feel brave. But mostly I don't do it for that. I just do it for me. And I love the feeling of it and the sensation of it. So playing music, that's another thing. I'm not particularly good. I play the piano a little, and if I practice more, I'd probably be amazing, but I don't, so I'm not amazing. But I play because I love it. I love it. I write songs on guitar, but as I said, for my theatre company there years ago, I used to write the songs. And that aspect also is still waiting in the wings, plus many other things I haven't quite explored yet. So yeah, it's part of our vitality and our good health that we do all of these things. So that's what I'd say about that.
Wow, how colourful that is. And what a wonderful mixture of different things you've done and are doing. I love what you said about not doing it for the admiration of others, but doing it for you. And therefore, it doesn't matter whether or not you're really good at it.
Oh, because if we're trying to do it to be good at something, which our world tries to make us be, then we move away from the connection to source, I find. So if you look at maybe people who are singing, The X Factor is a wonderful show. It's great. But we all feel we now need to be of this wonderful standard before we're allowed to open our mouths and to sing. But if we could just sing for the joy of singing, sing for the joy of uplifting our voices, then it's so beautiful. And we don't have, I don't know. I just think we are in a world where we're watched. We have to advertise ourselves on social media. We have to show people this, and we're all trying to put on a face, and we're this good and we're that good. Oh, can we strip it all back to what is really, really important? And that is your soul's expression in whichever way it is. You don't say to a small child, "Oh, darling, that's a bit of a rubbish painting, isn't it? Look at that. He's got one leg fatter than the other. Dear, oh dear, try again." Don't say that, do you? You say, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing," because it is amazing. Because they've expressed themselves on a piece of paper, and you want to encourage that child. And so we should encourage ourselves, I feel, in these things, without the need for other people to admire it.
Yeah, 100%. And it was very spirited of you to be in a situation where you're being encouraged to be a secretary, and you said, "I want my equity card. I'm going to get my equity card. I'm going to set up a theatre in order to be able to do it." And I remember when I was a young, an adolescent, all young women were expected to become secretaries.
Right.
That we were all expected to do that. And I intentionally bunked off the typing class so that I would be unemployable as a secretary.
Good tip. I should have been in your gang.
And that was the first of many ways of making myself unemployable that I do not regret. But, you said, "No, that's what I'm going to do." So I would say that was unusual for a woman at that time. Would you say that was unusual?
What, to set up a theatre company?
To go, okay, fine, everyone expects me to be secretary and do this and da-da-da-da. But actually, I'm going to go and do this.
Yeah, well, obviously I had to pay the rent and I had to keep my bills paid. So I had to keep being a secretary. That was unavoidable.
Yeah.
But I did this other thing I took some time off and went and did this other thing. Yeah, it took 2 years because I had to go and purchase a company at Companies House, register as an official company, and then get sponsors, and then, pay my actors who were working with me. It was a big deal. It took 2 years. So maybe, God rest my mother's soul, putting me into secretarial school was probably a good idea, because I was able to do all the administration on that, and be the director of the company and get this done. But yeah, when you don't have any music, that's because I wrote the play as well. I forgot to mention that bit. I wrote the play, and it was all about saving the planet at the time when that was first coming to our awareness about the ozone layer and things like that. And I made all the props. I made these little flowers that when one of us actors on the stage watered the flowers, there was a wire inside the felt stem of the flower. And as they watered it with a poisoned water from the acid rain, I took the wire slowly from under the table out of the stem of the flower, and this flower would droop. So it was all like these little tiny special effects that we were doing. Yes, I did all of that stuff. It was great. It was a really successful tour, and it was only a tour for 6 weeks because we only needed a certain amount of contracts in order to be issued the 2 equity cards. And weirdly enough, there were 3 of us in the company, and at the end of all of that I sorted out, they only issued us 2 equity cards, and the other 2 actors wanted to take them. And I was like, I've done all this and I'm not going to get my equity card after all of that. So I don't quite know how we sorted it all out. But the other 2 aren't actors anymore. I don't remember, thankfully, mercifully, how that one worked out. But I do know one of the cards did eventually come to me. So that was good.
I would have been surprised if it hadn't after everything you've just said.
Yeah.
So this is interesting as well, because I think some people, when they think, oh, somebody is a psychic, therefore they don't do this, and this.
Yes.
Therefore, they're completely into that. They just float around in purple muslin gowns the whole time.
Yes.
With soft lighting and, I don't know, incense, and that's their entire life. That's completely not the case with you. You're very vibrant, very present, obviously pragmatic as well as intuitive.
Yes.
You've got both Were you pragmatic before you trained to be a secretary, or did that come with dealing with pragmatic stuff on a daily basis?
Just tell me what you mean by pragmatic.
By pragmatic, I mean with an emphasis on making sure things work, and a kind of practical understanding of what's required to have things work, and like a kind of a practical, functional capability to sort of organize things and have things actually work, as opposed to being totally flaky and unable to work your way out of a paper bag, that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I'm not a flaky person. And yeah, I guess I was just really organized. Maybe I learned that from my father. He was a very organized, but very gentle, very kind gentleman. And maybe he taught that to me, how to work in that way from a list and take it off one by one. I remember at one point I'd organized for a scout hut to be hired. One of my brothers was a carpenter, and he came in and he built the framework for the set. Another of my brothers was an artist, so he came in to paint the background for the set, and it all had to be done in the time I had hired the scout hut in order to do it. And the actor I'd sent out to get the paint had come back and said, "Oh, I forgot to get the paint." And it was Sunday times, no shops were open. So it was in the end, I had to go out. So I rode a motorbike at the time. I was a dispatch rider in London delivering parcels. And I did that for the week.
The first week have done that as well.
Was. And so I had to go out on my motorbike. Because I was a dispatch rider, I knew the places that were open on a Sunday, because I drove all over London, that would have sold paint. So I had to go and get the paint, to come back to give it to my brother to paint the set, to do it in time to do the thing. So, but that's a case of good management, isn't it? You have to oversee, and very stressful, very, very stressful. So, yeah, so I was always very organized. Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I'm so... Have you written a book about your life?
No, but I think it would be good reading. What do you reckon, Catherine?
I think it would be fascinating. It's hilarious.
I know. It would be good, wouldn't it? I should. Maybe I should.
The audiobook possibly could be read by you or by Stephen Fry. Yeah, it's got that. It's got elements of the sort of surreal in it.
Yeah.
As well as, when you said, "Oh, I used to be a motorbike courier," I thought, what else? What has this woman not done?
I know.
How did you end up being a psychic and a medium? How did that arrive in your life?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, when I was a young child, I was very psychic, but I didn't know to call myself a psychic child. I just was living my normal life. And I knew that I would see certain people on the way to school in the morning. I knew what football scores would be. I knew things, and I didn't know how I knew them. And they would come instantly into my mind. A little bit later on, as my teen years unfolded, I would have been about 15 or 16 and still living at home with my parents. I left when I was 18, but at that time I started to see spirit people and little shadows and things, and I realized actually I had already seen shadow people, spirit people, since I was a young child. I have some very, very strong memories of speaking to these faces that would appear on the bedroom wall when I was under 10. And I used to chat away to all these beautiful faces that would come out of the wall and talk to me, until one day my poor, tired mother of 5 children yelled out to me to stop talking. And I was obviously keeping her awake with it. And I got so frightened that I asked the faces to go away, and they never came back again after that. But looking back, that was spirit contact. I didn't see it as such. I didn't really speak about that sort of thing. It was just one of those things that happened. It's like watching the sunset or looking at a cloud. It's just there. You don't think you need to go and talk to people. "Oh, I see clouds." You think everybody sees them. So that was all going on. And then when I became 17, I had a very strong interest in tarot. And I bought a packet of tarot cards, which frightened me so much, Catherine, that I kept them in the laundry basket on the landing outside of my bedroom at night time because they were so accurate. I was frightened of having them in the room with me. And of course, years later, I realised the magic is in me, not in the cardboard cards that were outside. But there was no tuition and nobody to tell me anything different. So that was going on. My mother tolerated me having tarot cards. And my friends used to ask me for readings, and I would just use the book then, the manual. You got a little tiny paper manual that came with your tarot card, so I would read that. That was all great. Moved to London when I was 18, did all of the above that I've already told you. Went to a drama school. I went to the Central Middlesex Polytechnic, as it was then, in Golders Green, and I did a part-time drama course there on a Tuesday and a Thursday, I think it was, and got a certificate in drama skills from that. And that's what started me off down the acting path. And from there, I went to a youth theatre. From the youth theatre, I met the people I got the equity card with, etc., etc. And then I got an agent, and I started to get work from there. But the psychic and the mediumship continued on ticking away in the background, ticking away. And so I would continually do tarot readings for my friends. And then once upon a time when I was 30, I got pregnant, and I started to see spirit people in the house then when my children were born. And it was at that point I thought, oh, what is this? Because you see, when I say I see spirit people, sounds a bit weird and frightening. And it wasn't frightening, but it was a little bit strange, because you'd look out the corner of your eye and you could see the arm and leg of a small boy, and then it would be gone. Or I'd see what I knew to be an old lady, very, very, very old lady in sort of a bustle. You know, an old lady's dress with a bustle at the back. I would see her in the bedroom upstairs, and then she'd be gone, and I'd think you're going bonkers because you think this can't be true. But when my children started to tell me they were seeing spirit people, that's when I thought, aye, it's not just me then. Because of course I was not telling my children what was going on for me, because I don't want them to be frightened. But when they started saying, my daughter said to me one day, I'm just talking to the lady at the top of the stairs. That's when and then when my daughter said to me one day, oh, do you remember the day when I was your mum and you were my daughter and we died together? She was about 3. And I said, what do you mean we died together? Oh, we died, both of us, don't you remember? I said, actually, darling, I don't remember. You tell me what that was about. Can you remind me what that was? Yes, all the houses fell down. There was a big loud noise and the roof fell down and all the houses burnt. And we died at that time. I was like, oh, interesting. That was really weird. So I went for some tuition after that. I thought I better go and get some guidance. And the story is I went to the College of Psychic Studies. This was so many years ago now. What am I? 30 years ago. And I went to the College of Psychic Studies. No, I know what it was, Catherine. I went out for a drink. I escaped from my 2 children somehow. I don't know how, because I had no backup and no babysitters. But somehow I went to the pub for a drink with a friend. And this boy came up to me, this man. And I thought, oh, here we go. He's going to try and buy me a drink, and I'll have to try and get rid of him. And he said, I'm not stopping. I'm just about to leave the pub. I need to tell you that you are a medium. What a strange thing for someone to come up to you in a pub and say.
Yeah.
People don't say that, do they? They say, would you like to have a drink? Or how are you? Do you live locally? Whatever the chat is. And he said directly, I'm not stopping. I need to tell you that you are a medium. And I was so taken aback. And I said, how do you know that? And he said, because I'm the 7th son of a 7th son, which I thought, frankly, was a bit weird. And I know these things. He said, you need to go and study with Tony Stockwell. And I said, Tony who? Tony Stockwell. I'd never heard of him. He was on the television. He was very, very big on the television with Sixth Sense and all these different programs. But because I was always putting the children to bed and sorting out the kids, I didn't watch the telly, so I had no idea about him. Fast forward to, I decide to go to the College of Psychic Studies and have a private reading with Tony. And if he tells me I'm a medium, then I'll believe him. But not some rando that comes up to me in the pub. So I couldn't get a private reading with Tony. He had a 6-month waiting list, Catherine. I can see you laughing away there. A 6-month waiting list. So the college in the meantime had an open day. So I went to the open day and there was a lady there rattling her little ticket box, buy some tickets, buy some tickets. And I only had about £1 on me, which I needed for the laundrette to do the children's washing. And she said, buy some tickets, buy some tickets. And I thought, no, go away. Buy some tickets, buy some tickets. And eventually I was so embarrassed because she'd asked me so many times. I think on the third time, I just gave her the £1 and got my tickets just so that she would leave and move on. And also I did want to support the college. So I did that. And the prizes were being given out for the raffle. And one of them went, the next one went, the next one went. And I think the 7th prize to be given out, my ticket came up. So I went to collect it. And it was a private sitting with Tony Stockwell. Amazing.
And it was the 7th. There's the number 7 again.
There you go. It was amazing. So I went and I had my private sitting with Tony in the College of Psychic Studies. He gave me a beautiful reading. At the time, mercifully, I didn't know too many people in the spirit world then. So he was working more psychically with me on guidance and life advice. He gave me some incredible information about my personal circumstances at the time, which I found so useful. He did pick up on a couple of aunts and things in the spirit world, which I was really grateful to hear from them. And then he said to me, I see you here. He said, no, I don't know. I see you in these halls. I said, whether it's now or in the future, but I see you here as part and parcel of this place. And now I am a teacher for the College of Psychic Studies. So that was extraordinary. That was 30 years ago, Tony told me that. And then I became Tony's assistant. I was helping him with his classes and programs for quite some time because I took some tuition with him. And I went to some weekends and week workshops with him for quite some time. I studied with Tony on his mentorship programs and did a lot of tuition under his guidance. And he saw that I was a note taker because we already spoke about me being very organized and all of these things. And he took note and said, oh, could you just make a note of this and remind me of that? And it was through there that I started to help him with some of his programs and things. So then I worked for him for several years, many, many years. And now I work alongside him as a tutor myself. So that's really beautiful. Yeah.
That is so beautiful. What a wonderful story.
Yeah.
And that is, as you say, that's not the line we normally expect in a pub, is it? You're a medium.
No.
And I'm the 7th son of the 7th son, which apparently means he's a wizard, doesn't it? Isn't that
Well, I don't know, but it was extraordinary.
According to Terry Pratchett, that means he's a wizard.
Yes. Maybe he was.
So, extraordinary. Now, I've got a question which I've been curious about, which is, when you work as a psychic and as a medium, do you, because we're talking about expressing ourselves, right? Now, to some people, we might think, well, being a psychic and a medium isn't about expressing yourself, surely, because you're opening to receiving information that you're then passing on. So my question to you is, when you're working in that way, do you have to sort of put your own ego to one side? Do you have to put your own persona to one side to do it? Or is all of you still very much involved in the whole process?
Yeah, it's a great question, Catherine. We put the conscious mind to one side because the conscious mind is not psychic. And your personality is still there. Your personality, the persona of the soul is still present. But your conscious mind, the organizer, the list maker, that's to one side of you. So you enter a slightly altered state, which is like a meditative daydream state, in order to move in your energy into your recipient's energy and pick up information from their auric field, or to work with a spirit communicator and move your energy that way and work with them and become aware and perceive what it is they're saying. So your personality is still present in a sense, because when I work, I'm still I've still got a sense of humor. I still put things across in a humorous, light-hearted way or a very sensitive way. You're still very present in that sense. And I think that must come as interesting. I've not really thought about it before because no one's ever asked me. So it's such a good question. But you're present in your persona of your soul, but your conscious mind is to one side. That's what I would say.
Yeah, thank you. I understand. And is that something which you found you took to easily, or was that something that you had to learn how to do and learn through practice?
Yeah, so some mediums come to it and they're super brilliant and they've been doing it since they were a baby and they're just brilliant. I, of course, didn't come to mediumship until my 30s. When I started, I saw spirit people, but I didn't necessarily communicate with them, and not since I was that young 9, 8-year-old child. So I think I know that our souls, because we're all from the spirit world, we're all from the spirit realm, we all know how to speak the language of the soul. So everyone can do this. It's not gifted to the elite few. All of your listeners can do this themselves. We are all equal. And I will say to my students, I can't teach you anything. You know just as much as I do, but what I can help you do is move your human being out of the way and all your human learning to reveal you to yourself. I can't prove it to you. I can't give you any evidence. You have to do that for yourself by questioning and being very skeptical. So, yeah, that's how I'd answer your question.
Understood. Fantastic. Yes. So I was also going to ask you, and you've answered it already, this question about that we all have the capacity for this. So when people come to you to work with you, the people who want to learn from you about doing this work, do many of them have memories of these sorts of experiences from earlier in life, or are many of them coming to you because they're drawn to it, but they've never actually experienced it before?
Yeah, some of them are exactly that. They're drawn to it. They just want to explore it now. Their children are grown up and moved away from home. Some of them are in their, 60s, 70s even when they start turning to this type of work. Some of them are much, much younger and have always seen spirit people like I have and now just want to do something about it. So it's a very big variety of students with different abilities and different reasons for coming to the classes.
Yeah. And do you think that the general kind of awareness in society, as it were, in the population of this sort of work and the fact that it's real, do you think that awareness has grown over time, or is it stayed fairly static? What's your perception around that?
Oh, it's definitely changing. It's definitely becoming more talked about. It was poo-pooed for so long. We weren't allowed to talk about it, really. There was a lot of fraud that went on within the spiritualist movement in the Victorian times, because in the Victorian times, there was a lot of physical mediumship. So physical mediumship, what we do now is mental mediumship, where we receive information in the mind of the medium. So that would be mental mediumship. But physical mediumship is where paranormal activity can occur within a room, a darkened room, and you have a medium who works with the spirit world. And so that was very, very easy to be fraudulent with. So, and of course, it was all showmanship and things like that. So there was a lot of that going on at the time. And that had a knock-on effect on the laws in England at the time. So we had the Fraudulent Mediums Act, which replaced the Witchcraft Act. And now we've got the Consumer Protection Act, which has replaced that one. So it's really important that the public are protected, of course, against the fraudulent, but that sticks now. Unfortunately, it's stuck during the sort of 50s, 60s, 70s. So then there was this period of time where people just think it's a load of nonsense and don't believe it. But now science, thankfully, is catching up. science is now having these wonderful conversations. And in fact, only this morning, I was listening to another podcast. Do you ever listen to it, Catherine? Diary of a CEO.
No.
Oh, it's such a fantastic Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO. It's got thousands and millions of listeners across the world, this Diary of a CEO. And I was listening to it this morning, and there was a neuroscientist on there called Dr. Tara, I can't remember what her name is, but she was talking about Swart, I think her name is. And she was talking about her husband, who passed away, unfortunately, of leukemia 4 years ago, and how she's now able to speak to him from the spirit world. And she said, years ago, we would lock people up for the things that I'm now experiencing, but I can come at it from a neuroscientist point of view and speak to you about it. And it's very, very real. So when people like her start to have these vital conversations in the space, this is when other people, perhaps those more skeptical, start to open out their awareness as well. So, and we want, as mediums and psychics, we can't wait for science to prove what we've been saying all along. So it's definitely changing times. Religion doesn't have such a strong hold on the country any longer. Therefore, freedom of speech here in the UK is wonderful. So we can have these conversations. And I think it's really healthy and really good. Also, have to think, being skeptical is really important. Don't think we should be spoon-fed. I don't think we follow any guru. We have to test these things for ourselves and see if they are true for us.
Yeah. Like everything in life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you like chips? Well, I better try one.
Yes.
And then I probably will.
Yes.
So, beautiful. I'm delighted to hear that, because personally, I think that any assumption that we know everything about everything is the one thing that's wrong. Even if we're not connected to something, there may be a lot of validity in it. If we've had no direct experience of it, so we might as well be open and explore. And also listening to you, it's very, very clear that you didn't just wake up one morning, realize you were sensitive to spirit, and then just, put a thing outside the door saying, 50 quid for a reading. You've done a lot of in-depth study and training and practice over an extended period of time.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine that that's very, very important when you're teaching other people, because you're going to be teaching all different kinds of people with different needs and circumstances and so forth. Would you like to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think training is really important. Whatever you do in life, try to be the best that you can be at it. And for me, I'm the voice of the voiceless at the moment, they're not voiceless spirit people, but we are their ambassador, we are their interpreter. And I have to do the best job that I can do. That's why I take my training and have taken my training so seriously, so that I can present their voices in the best way I possibly can and present what it is they're trying to say. So the training that I undertook initially, the children were young. I was only able to do what I was only able to do, Catherine. A weekend course, then nothing for 4 months. A week's course, then nothing until the finance came in again, etc., etc. But money became flowing a little easier as they got a little older. And I would do things like I would ask the spirit world, I really want to go and study for a week at the Arthur Findlay College, and I want to study with this particular teacher. I've put £100 deposit down. I have no further money. The course costs £750. Find me the money. And the money, £750, by the time payment day was due, it would be in my account. It would just come. No more than I needed, but just enough. And that's how I did it. I put faith in the spirit world that they would provide the money I needed for my training. And in a sense, that's why I do my own podcast now, so that people can learn for free, because there was nothing for me when I was first starting out, when I couldn't afford to go to classes. I couldn't get away from my children. Lots of people look after their mothers and fathers and sick family members, and they just can't go. There's loads of people across the world who live in cultures where there are no spiritualist churches, there is no training. And that's why my podcast speaks to guests from across the world to get their wisdom, advice, and their guidance. for people that used to be in my position, or for the position I used to be in. That's why I provide that service for them now. But I've completely forgotten the question that you asked when I started off my chat.
It doesn't matter. My question's less important than what you're saying.
Okay.
Beautiful. I love that. So, and when I was looking at your website, it looks like you've got well over 100 countries where your show is being watched and listened to. Is it something like 160 or something?
Yes, it's an extraordinary amount. Yeah, it's really great.
So there are people in all sorts of different cultures who are tuning in and listening and watching and taking in the wisdom.
That's right. It's my ambition, Catherine, to go to the Vatican and listen to my podcast within it so that I can say it's been listened to in the Vatican, because the Vatican City is its own little place, isn't it? So,
Well, do you mean you would go in there and listen to it on your iPhone or something in the Vatican?
and then I'll have a little chalk up from the Vatican.
Okay, it's been listened to in the Vatican.
If anyone's listening, listen to it. Psychic Matters, listen to it in the Vatican if you're visiting this summer.
Exactly. If you live wherever the Vatican is, in Rome, is it?
Oh, yeah.
If you live in Rome, just walk down the street.
Yes.
And even if you're just outside the Vatican, just leaning against the wall from the outside, you could say you were listening to it on the Vatican.
That's right. That's right.
It's fantastic. I might take that on as a goal for my podcast as well, is listen to in the Vatican. And maybe there are some other interesting places around the world that one can choose, you know, the Taj Mahal, that kind of thing. That's fantastic. But also that's very generous. And, you know, I feel that that's a heart gift, isn't it? To say, look, I didn't have that when I was younger. That wasn't available. I'm fortunate to be in the position I'm in now. I can now share that with other people. And
But yeah, absolutely. And sorry to cut across what you just said there, but it brings me to this point of when I was at the Arthur Findlay College once upon a time, a few years ago, the students that had been there for a week were leaving and they were preparing to go home. And I saw this girl and she was weeping in the grounds. And I went up to her to ask if she was all right. And she said yes, she was from Italy and she had to go back to her small town in Italy where she wasn't allowed to talk about her mediumship or her spirituality or her spiritual side. She wasn't allowed to mention spirit people or communication. There were no spiritual churches and she didn't know how she was going to physically survive. Well, no, she knew how she was going to physically survive. But she didn't know how she was going to spiritually survive without that. And there was nothing for her to attend. There was no classes or churches or anything. She was weeping because she'd had such a wonderful time of learning. There was nothing for her. And it was people like that that I decided to make the podcast for. And going back to how we opened our conversation when you said soul's expression, well, my little Play-Doh fists of hope hammering on the door of opportunity for acting, or it was a titanium door that I could never get through. So I've used my voice instead for my podcast and I've expressed my soul that way. And it's been in the right way because that's what people are needing right now. And how do I know that? Well, because the podcast is doing quite well and I'm getting nice feedback from it. So, yeah, so it's a gift of the heart, yes, but I think it's everybody's right to have access to good tuition without necessarily having to pay through the nose for it.
I will say again, congratulations on the show being in the top 1%, because that really is amazing, just really amazing. Honestly, I could talk to you, Anne, for hours on end, but of course we don't have time for that today. I'm going to ask you just a couple of things to wind up. So I like to think there are a lot of people in the world at the moment who are trying to be part of the solution in terms of helping us with whether it's the Great Awakening, whether it's the coming to consciousness, whether it's sorting out our stupid issues and problems globally. And some of those people will be listening to this show. Is there something you'd like to say to those sorts of people in relation to some of what we've been talking about today?
I'm not sure I'm understanding your question. You're saying some people are could you repeat it for me, Catherine?
Of course. So if we think about, let's say we're in interesting times, let's just say that globally, which I think most people would agree. And there are a lot of people in, whether they're in leadership positions or they're parents or they are community leaders or they're writers, but they're trying to be helpful. They're trying to be part of the improvement of things, part of the solution. And some of those people tune into this show, for nuggets of inspiration. And I just wondered if you have something you would like to say to those sorts of people in relation to some of what we've been talking about today.
I'm still not really clear. I'm so sorry. I know you've just explained it to me twice, but it's not quite fitting in my brain, Catherine. So you're talking about the world being as it is right now, and people tuning in because they're looking for inspiration, because they want to be part of the solution as to what do we do about this. And so you're asking, what can I
Some of those people are trying to help other people. Some of those people are trying to guide people and help them. And so the question really is around, do you have any advice for those people whether it's in relation to expressing the soul's voice, whether it's in relationship to the psychic connection, or any of the other things we've spoken about today? Because you're in a unique place. You're a unique human being. We all are, but you are a uniquely unique human being and in a unique place, and with a lot of wisdom and insight. I just wondered if there's something you'd like to offer those people.
Yes. Okay. The penny is dropping, and something is coming now to answer this question. Bless you for your patience, and the listeners, bless you. Thank you, everyone. So for me, I read a wonderful quote by Mother Teresa once upon a time, and she said, "I can't feed the millions of people that are hungry, but I can feed one person. I can clothe the one person that comes to my door. I can't clothe everybody, but I can just do with one little thing at a time." And I think we forget. We think we have to attack the world on a major scale. But actually, I think we forget we must do things on a micro level. And they are really, really important. So if you can spend a moment in quiet contemplation, that I feel is really important. If you can reach out to a neighbor and go and sit with them for half an hour, just because there's not that many people that go and see them, you can do that. You can't sit with every neighbor. You wouldn't have the patience or the time, but you can go and sit with one. You can smile at someone on the street. They may not smile back. That's okay. Don't look for your kind acts to be acknowledged. Just do them anyway. Again, the soul's expression. Don't look for the result. Just do it because. So I think there's many things that we can do on a micro level. Again, peace in the world starts with peace in your own family. What are you doing in your family to reach out to the people? Because you betcha the people in your family have swanned off and aren't talking to you for some reason. I know I've got plenty of those in mine. Every now and again, I will reach out. I will keep reaching out because it's important to try to bring the unity together. What can you do on a small level that will help? That's what I would say, Catherine. Take responsibility, but don't try to fix the entire world. It's not your business. It's not your business what's going on thousands of miles away across the world. It's very much your business what's happening to the man next door. He's sitting on his own because his wife died 4 years ago, and you haven't gone around to see if he needs to buy a pint of milk, or if he needs anything. Is his garden overgrown? What can we do in the world? And sometimes we can't do anything. Across the miles where there are war-torn countries, we can send prayer. We can't fix it. We can't talk to politicians. We can send prayer. And prayer is heard. In my truth. It might not be in you as the listener's truth. That's okay. But in my truth, prayer is heard. And if that's a small thing that you can do today, it will take you 2 minutes. Send prayer, send light to those people that are hungry and fearful.
Thank you so much. Absolutely very beautiful. Thank you very much indeed. And my final question before we complete, and sometimes people have an answer to this question and sometimes they don't. We've talked about a lot today. Has there been a favourite part of our conversation for you today?
Well, it's really interesting. I think what I'm going to take away from it is the opening question, which is the expression of the soul. Because I've forgotten we talked about that before we actually had this interview. Catherine and I, we had this lovely pre-chat, didn't we, about what we might talk about on this episode. And it came up then, this expression of the soul. And I think I'll take that with me because I want to consider how that sits with me and how I can encourage other people to express themselves as well and give them the permission to do what I do, which is what I want, without even worrying about it, without, I don't worry about what people might think anymore, what people might say to me, what people's opinions are. All of those emotions are transient anyway. So we must do what we want to do in the world to express ourselves in whichever way that might be. And I'm going to take that with me, Catherine, and consider how else I might apply that to my own personal life, because my expression, self-expression, will hopefully ripple out and help other people.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, this has been so much fun. I've really enjoyed it. You've been a fantastic guest. Thank you very much for coming on. So thank you, everyone watching and listening. That's it for today. Have a great week. I'll see you next time. And thanks again to Ann Théato.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.
And let's just remind everybody where to find you. Go to anntheato.com. That's ANNTHEATO.com. Antheato.com. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. It really helps if you give a thumbs up, a 5-star rating, a review, and share with your friends. If you're looking for transformational coaching or an intensive transformational weekend workshop experience, I can help with that. You can actually help the show by making a donation. Until next time, take care.